there's a fire burning, it needs to be put out. And that's why we're going to have to look at every remedy. And if these two issues are, in fact, one issue and relates to deplorable conduct, a violation of the president's oath of office, and a cover-up in terms of this whistleblower complaint, then we're going to have to consider impeachment as well a remedy here.
Developing this hour, that was House Intelligence Committee Chair Adam Schiff saying Democrats may have no choice but to consider impeaching President Trump if the allegations he pressured the Ukrainian government to investigate Joe Biden are true. Joining me now is Tennessee Representative Steve Cohen, a member of the Judiciary Committee. Always good to see you, my friend. Let's get into it here because, look, Congressman Schiff has long resisted endorsing impeachment. But does hearing what he just said make you believe this might encourage more of your colleagues to join the pro-impeachment camp?
I certainly hope it does. It's impeachable conduct if it's what it's been described as by sources in the Washington Post and other places. I, in fact, had an encounter, I think it was about the 1st of August, with a State Department person who told me about the dismissal, the firing of our ambassador, who highly respected and praised ambassador back in May from Ukraine, our ambassador to Ukraine, and it was about this circumstance. They approached me at a function, called me aside, and told me it was a serious breach of protocol and a serious problem in our country.
Wait, before you go any further, can you tell me more about this, what was said to you specifically?
It was said that the lady who was fired, who was highly respected, was fired because she would not go along with a political activity of the administration that they were trying to force, and she thought it was wrong, and she was fired as a point of conscience.
So, and were they specific about that? Did they talk about what this lady had been asked to do?
They only mentioned Giuliani, and it was that it was the same thing Giuliani was over there about.
And so you believe that it related to this whistleblower inquiry?
Unquestionably, it did, and that was back in the beginning of May. They were starting to clear the deck. They were going to do their operation, and this has been their main focus. Trump does not understand any restraints on his power or limitations on his activities, and as I've said before, no constitutional prohibition, no statutory prohibition, no commandment from the Bible affects Donald Trump.
Look, there has been great pressure to get a transcript of the phone call that was done between the president and the Ukrainian president on July 5th. Lots of pushback from that, including from Steve Mnuchin, who appeared earlier on the Sunday talk shows. Let's take a listen to what he had to say about this and his reasons for not supporting that.
I think that would be a terrible precedent. Conversations between world leaders are meant to be confidential. And if every time someone, for political reasons, raised a question and all of a sudden those conversations were disclosed publicly, and when you disclose them to Congress, lots of times they leak into the press, then why would world leaders want to have conversations together?
I want your response to that. Is that a valid concern?
It's hooey. World leaders are not going to not want to talk to the President of the United States. It's not going to inhibit their particular part of the conversation. I imagine the Ukrainian president would like it to be released because it would free him from the burden that's been placed on him of choosing between an activity that might inure to his country's defense or fairness and justice and due process. And he's been put in a bind between Democrats and Republicans by Trump. They come up with all kinds of excuses. Trump claimed that the reason he wouldn't do certain things with the Mueller report was because of future presidents and precedent. They don't care about precedent. They care about protecting this lawless president. And Mnuchin, if we knew more about what he discussed with the Russians when he lifted the sanctions that ended up with the fellow investing in the coal mine in Kentucky, it might be good for the American public to know what went on there. Congress voted against lifting the sanctions, and it happened anyway.
Look, barring an acquisition of the transcript of this phone call, how do you hold the president accountable here? I mean, if this information is withheld, what do you have?
Impeachment. The only power Congress has other than that really has to put a president who's not fit to hold the office and hold him up for sanctions is impeachment. Going to court to try to enforce our subpoenas for testimony and for documents is a long process that will end up in the Supreme Court sometime in late 2020, and be of limited effect, and I'm fearful of what the Supreme Court would say. They have been appointed, at least Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, by Trump, and I suspect they will go along with Trump, regardless of the policy. I no longer have faith in that court. I still have a glimmer of faith in Justice Roberts, but on the majority of the court, I don't have faith.
What about the Judiciary Committee on which you serve? Are you going to be taking up the specifics of this phone call, this situation?
We've talked about it. I suspect it's more within the bosom of the Intelligence Committee and Adam Schiff. That's the subject matter, and I think Adam will pursue it more so than us. It's really not directly within our purview, except for the fact that it's impeachment, which comes under our jurisdiction. And we'll discuss it again. But we first have to defer, I think, to Adam Schiff, who is the chairman of the subcommittee, or the committee that's being thwarted by the president. What I think is an illegal action toward a statute, a law of the United States of America requiring that information to be given to Congress.
I want to turn now to the showdown that Judiciary had this week with Corey Lewandowski, of course, Trump's former campaign manager, really stonewalling questions in the first hearing for your committee's impeachment investigation. Let's take a listen to one of the exchanges that you had with Corey Lewandowski.
I didn't think the president asked me to do anything illegal.
You didn't think it would have been illegal for you to ask Mr. Sessions to drop the investigation and to just go on to future presidents and omit everything with this president and go ollie in free? We're going to start with the next one about colluding with Russia. You didn't think that was illegal to obstruct justice?
Congressman, the president asked me to do anything illegal.
After that hearing and a hearing like that, coupled with the latest situation over the whistleblower complaint, is there a real frustration starting to build within you, among your fellow Democrats, over the difficulties that you have faced in trying to keep the president in check?
Is a frustration we felt for a long time, and we had a major meeting of the Judiciary Committee on, I guess it was Friday morning, and all the members are frustrated. And what the best course to take is, there are several of us, Congressman Ted Lieu and myself, among others, who think we should use inherent contempt. There are some that aren't sure if that's the right process. We think go forward, use our strongest possible remedy, and show the American public that we care, and try to get the next witness to tell the truth and not to act in a contemptuous fashion toward Congress. It makes us look awful.
But didn't Nancy Pelosi say in a private meeting that she would have held Corey Lewandowski in contempt after that display?
Yeah, well, she said it, but it's been her counsel, or the House's counsel, who has said that we can't use inherent contempt, and that we'd have to use inherent contempt. I think the House counsel's wrong. I think we should go forward and pursue it, and if the courts say that we're wrong, then the courts say that we're wrong. But we will have tried, and we will have been acting on behalf of Congress and the Constitution and pursuing remedies to make these individuals, which are all coming out of Trump, stop thwarting their noses at Congress, the three separate divisions of government, and the checks and balances that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to act. This administration is acting like no other administration has ever acted. They're acting like Roy Cohn would have acted, with total disrespect and disregard for the law, and creating their theories on the run without any precedent. They did it in the case of New York's DA, who's trying to get his taxes. What they said there was just hooey, but they're doing it to run the clock out. And we need to act in response to this president and the way they've acted in a forceful manner, in a strong manner, and we need to go forward to protect the Constitution.
With regard to the president and his thoughts, let's take a listen to what he said a little earlier about all of the Democratic investigations. Here it is.
If Congress would ever get back to work, we could work something. But Congress is doing all of this nonsense, this garbage that they're doing. And I'll tell you what, they don't have any time. The Democrats in Congress are doing nothing. I'll tell you what, they're going to lose the election. You know why? Because they're not doing anything.
Are you at all concerned that the president's message there could end up resonating with the public if what many people mostly hear about and all they see is the word on investigations that are being pursued by Democrats? Or can you convince the public that they are indeed necessary?
Well, not only are they necessary to protect the country, but we have passed gun laws. Mitch McConnell won't schedule them. We've passed health care laws. Mitch McConnell won't schedule them. We've passed equal pay for women. We've passed a minimum wage law. We've passed ethics laws. We've passed voting laws. that will protect our ballots. We have passed laws to protect the pensions of people who lost them with the Butch Lewis law. We have passed all kind of important laws, and they will not bring them up in the Senate. No legislative or administrative body has done more since Donald Trump has been elected than the House Democratic Caucus, and passing bills, passing up budgets. We passed our appropriations bills, which the Senate has not. We have done our work. We've passed it on the American public with a strong, good agenda, and Mitch McConnell, who prides himself on calling himself the Grim Reaper, has stopped it. Trump has stopped things. He's not listened to the bipartisan groups that said we shouldn't end sanctions, and bipartisan groups that said we shouldn't fund the wall with monies that Congress has appropriated. Another violation of the Constitution, because Congress appropriates monies, and it's in court now.
Long list of grievances there by you, Tennessee Representative Steve Cohen. Thanks for sharing them. Good to see you. Thanks.
You're welcome. Nice to see you, too.